Hello, welcome back. I'm Paul Gravett, and I'm reviewing graphic novels translated from French bande dessinée as part of the 2020 Year of Comics in France for the French Institute in London, the Institut Français, and their Beyond Words Festival. So welcome. And our next graphic novel to look at is another graphic novel based on a real-life story. It's Katherine's War. I've got it, in fact, as a PDF here, originally published in French, of course, in 2017. And in 2018, it won the Prix Jeunesse, the Youth Prize at the Angoulême International Comics Festival. And this year, 2020, it comes out in English as Katherine's War. Now, the interesting thing about this particular graphic novel is it deals with an aspect of the war that perhaps is not so well documented, the Second World War, I should point out. And it's told very much from a child's perspective. In that sense, it's a kind of successor to great graphic novels we've had recently. For example, Persepolis, of course, by Marjane Satrapi, her own story from childhood growing up in Iran during the rise of the Ayatollahs. Or, of course, even earlier, the series Barefoot Gen, the manga by Keiji Nakazawa, who was recalling his own experiences, traumatic experiences with his mother surviving the nuclear bombings of Hiroshima. In this instance, we are not dealing with the author herself. Julia Billet is not the subject of the story. It's actually her mother. And her mother, her name was Tamo Cohen. She was one of many Jewish children during the Second World War in France who, during the Vichy era, the Vichy period, where Germany, of course, was occupying France, and when there was a lot of terrible deportation of Jewish people to the concentration camps, children were hidden, often amongst children's homes, orphanages, convents, wherever they could be hidden. But they were also hidden, of course, by disguising the fact that they were Jewish. Their names had to be changed. They had to take on a completely new identity. And this is the war that her mother, that Julia Billet's mother experienced. Julia originally wrote this as a novel in 2012. It's not available in English, but now she's worked with Claire Fauvel to translate it into a graphic novel. And that's an interesting transition to make for somebody who is a word person, a writer like Julia, to realize that maybe this is an interesting way to take this very powerful story, work closely with an artist, and also, perhaps even more impressively, make sure that she understands that the graphic novel is graphic and that sometimes an image can tell the story as well, maybe even better than her original text in her original prose graphic novel. Now, the period covered is from 42 to 45, and it follows a girl called Rachel Cohen, so the same surname as Julia's mother, who has to change her name and hide. There's a key phrase when this becomes apparent. She says it's really hard to erase oneself. The idea that, of course, she's also very concerned because how will her parents, who she's not heard from for several months now, how will they possibly find her when she changes her name? So she goes from Rachel Cohen to Katherine Collin. Interestingly, that is the surname that Julie Billet's mother also was given. She was called France Collin, as in C-O-L-I-N, Collin. So there's a connection there. And one of the recurring themes, as you may notice from the front cover with the Rolleiflex camera, is that photography plays a very important role throughout this storyline, because it's a skill that Rachel, renamed Katherine, has acquired in school, and she's given the camera, and she's told very powerfully by the lady in charge of the children's home in Sèvres, just outside Paris, where the story begins, a very important thing. The lady says, "Go, look at the world through an artist's eyes as a citizen of the Republic of Children will need those testimonies when the war is over." That's a very powerful statement. And through the story, Claire and Fauvel and Billet, they really convey the period, the drama, the endless having to move on to another possibly safe place, which then becomes unsafe. But along the way, how important photography, the camera being able to record key moments, sometimes beautiful moments, moments of transient beauty, are to this girl as she's going through such a difficult time. And in a touching effect, Claire Fauvel uses the kind of viewfinder to crop certain panels when you know that Katherine is looking through the lens and working out what shot to take. And then other sequences are set in the dark room where you have the red glow tells you immediately that you're in this special place where the photographs will be developed. The storyline is also follows another child who accompanies Katherine on the travels, a much younger girl who is looking for her brother. It's very powerfully written and very touching, as this story is almost bound to be, and very affecting. And it was originally made, in fact, for younger readers, which doesn't mean that it can't be enjoyed by everybody, actually. It's certainly not dumbed down in any way. It is written with a kind of very nice clarity. The translation by Ivanka Hahnenberger is particularly good. And the book comes at the end with some extra sections, explanatory material, questions answered, and some of the actual photographs, including a photograph of Tammo Cohen, Julie Billet's mother, which give you extra context. So it would be a book, as it's suggested by publishers Harper Alley, that could be used in homeschooling. In fact, well, you've got bring it into the home, and a way to introduce perhaps your children to what really happened during the Second World War in France. So I would recommend it very, very highly. It's, I think, an interesting mixture. The question is it real or isn't it real? It's clearly a mixture of real facts, real people, real situations, but then made into a story. But it's a very much founded on a stark, terrifying reality, which we should never forget. So I recommend it very highly. Catherine's War, Claire Fauvel and Julie Billet. I hope you discover it and enjoy it. Thank you.